Now we arrive at the third cultural figure that we pay homage to today. And this is an architect from Pakistan. I don't know if I pronounce well his name, especially the first name, NAYYAR Ali Dada, a good architect. And he does look like a serious architect, and it's a good thing to witness seriousness in architecture. He built a lot, and he is considered a legend in Pakistan, in general, in the Muslim world. He was born in 1943, so he is today 77 years. So he's not so old, considering that architects today live, over 90. I mean, so many architects are over 90 today. It's incredible. Frank Gehry, Kenneth Frampton, Paolo Portoghesi, Doshi, Alvaro Siza, many, Eisenman is approaching the age of 90. Richard Meyer also. Many architects are over 90 actually. So drawings by this Pakistani architect, who, these drawings are not, mimicking that nervousness that we associate with a genius, but I think they can be appreciated for their sensitivity and for the lack of glamour. So his family name is easy to remember, because we just have to think of Dada, of the Dada movement, and there we have it. So let's see what he built. He was born actually in India, and then he later on came to Pakistan. We start with this building the museum, the Shakir Ali Museum in Lahore in 1982. Excellent work. It's a work which values tectonics, tactility. The walls are alive and breathing, and you can tell this was a serious architect who knew how to build, in a convincing way. Maybe he was not a great innovator. Maybe here he is actually talking with someone. He's on the right, but I think his work deserves a more developed presentation than the one I have here. But as an introduction to him, perhaps it is okay for the moment. Now, a mosque in this Lahore, Valencia town, Grand Jamia Mosque, and it is grand indeed. I mean, it's between tradition and innovation. I would say that somehow the balance here is more in the favor of tradition, a little bit. But there is a certain level of so-called modernity, considering the simplicity of the architectural language. But there isn't really a lot of innovation. There are mosques which are much more sometimes alarmingly innovative. He still remained within the canon of all the mosques. But you'll see that other works by him are a little more adventurous, so to speak, than this one. It's very possible he was a religious man. He is a religious man. After all, he's not even 80. An architect who is not over 80 can still be considered a teenager. I'm joking, of course, but considering the advanced age architects these days arrive at, maybe it's not a totally useless or frivolous joke. Anyway, The sky is dramatic over the mosque built by Mr. Dada. Now, another mosque in Bahria town. This one, maybe because of the context, you know, it's in the desert, seems to be even more impressive. Yeah, it's not so. I mean, somehow contemplating his work, I think of Louis Kahn. But Louis Kahn achieved a higher degree of abstraction. This is not the case with Dada. I think he's a little bit maybe too much anchored in the traditions of the place he lives in and builds in, and you know, yeah, from this point of view, it's possible that we could say that Louis Kahn was again, I shouldn't say this because I think hierarchies are not what I intend to underline here. But you can see even in the work, you know, I mean, the mosque itself in the rendering, in the end, is very recognizable as an architectonic image, very similar with what was built in the past. So again, in the balance between tradition and innovation, I would say that somehow there is more weight on the side of the balance relating to tradition. In other works, he's a little more, as I said, adventurous. Alhamra Arts Council, for example, in this work, you know, I love these brick walls, you know, and he knew how to build them, you know, they are fortress-like, especially at the lower level of the walls, and it's a massive architecture. It's an opaque architecture. It's an architecture of thick walls, and it's like a citadel. I mean, we generally associate modernity with a lot of transparency and a lot of glass and so on. Well, here we have something else. Although it is a massive architecture, because you see in the plan, he is able to fragment, you know, the building, so it's not oppressingly monolithic, and because of it, the building is not, you know, too static. His office, a bank in Sri Lanka, but no pictures. Another building, a national Beacon House National University. This building is one of the preferred ones by me. I think his architecture is, you know, a rational, approximately moderate architecture, but like in this view, I think is very convincing. Is you know, well balanced, and it's the kind of architecture. If I am to imagine a parallel between a building and a human being, I would say that if the human being had the character of what I look at here in this picture, is a person I can trust. And I think this is an architect one can trust. The interior is more modernistic because of the temptation he had to become more dynamic. It's not really the fluidity of the present. I don't think he would write a book with the title Total Fluidity or Fluid Totality, like the titles of two books with the works of the students of Zaha Hadid at the Institute of Architecture in Vienna. I admire these walls where the brick is not hidden behind plaster. You know, the walls evoke the emotion of the, or the I don't know if I express well what I want to say. The brick is miraculous, and I totally agree with Frank Lloyd Wright that, you know, Frank Lloyd Wright said, give me a brick and I will transform it in its equivalent in gold. Obviously, he loved brick. And so did Louis Kahn, who was even talking with the brick, you know, like in the famous question he addressed to the brick. I asked the brick what it wants to be, and the brick said, I want to be an arch. Well, it seems for Dada, you know, he would have given a different answer. He uses the arch. You'll see a building, but here there are no arches, not in the sense that Khan referred to. It's a good building, this one. Lots of bricks, not only on the walls, but also on the slabs. So both horizontally and vertically, this is a building which beautifully complements the green, complements and opposes the green of nature. So whenever you have the redness of the brick and the greenness of nature, all of a sudden, I think, at least chromatically, some kind of richness is arrived at. You see in this rendering that there is movement, and geometry is rotated and fragmented, and because of this movement, the building is not rigid. Another Arts Council building. Now here you can see the arch, the beloved arch that Louis Kahn referred to. I would say that the architecture of Dada has dignity. Maybe it's not very spectacular, but it has dignity. And it's very possible this was the expression of the man himself. Now a stadium in Lahore, kind of in the same spirit with the previous building that we saw. Not too many stadiums look like this one, though. I mean, how many stadiums use brick at this scale that we know of? Not many. I wish I had more pictures with this stadium, but anyway. Okay, a hotel in Islamabad. Well, this one is very close to being a little bit commercial for my taste, especially what's going on at on the top floor. But there are some interesting things here. You know, this, but I don't know. This is not one of my preferred buildings by him. Maybe also the function, you know, although, you know, a hotel is not by necessity unavoidably commercial. Okay, Memorial Cancer Hospital and Research Center. As you can see, he had major commissions and large buildings, some of them done with more skill than others. All in all, his architecture is rather, a massive architecture. It's because of the insistent usage of the wall. He believes in walls and not so much in transparency. A shopping mall in Lahore, Pakistan from 2010, Vogue Towers. Well, maybe that's not what we expected. Actually, I would have expected this kind of building in Japan. But it is in a way interesting. In a way, it shows the misery of shopping, despite the fact that shopping has the nerve to claim the only legitimate reason for us to live. It's not so. But I would have seen this building just as it is in Japan. But do we see the architecture? Really, not really, because you have this assault of the banners and the publicity. So where is the architecture? It's gone. It's gone. I was joking when I was telling the students, if your facade in your study doesn't arrive at a level which satisfies you, there are two ways to make that facade, work. One is to bring in the ivy and just allow the ivy to grow on the building as you would like it to grow. But I didn't yet see a so-called ugly building covered partially or more than partially by ivy. Now, once the ivy takes over the building becomes just fine. Another so-called solution would be to bring in the banners. The banners modify the building significantly. So if a portion of your facade, doesn't satisfy you, just talk with Sony or Toshiba or Hitachi or Apple or I don't know, to bring in a huge banner or several, and they will take care of your building. Lahore Zoo, the defense revelation. What is this? The defense revelation. It's a building. This is not the zoo. For the zoo, I didn't have pictures. Sorry, but the defense revelation. I don't know what it is. It's some kind of a commemorative building. It's a Colosseum, it's a building you wouldn't expect to see outside of Rome. Well, we are wrong, and we see arches differently, obtained from, if we are to think of Louis Kahn, more, in a traditional way, brought into place, but because they are on this huge curved building, maybe the belonging to what we call tradition is not so unsatisfying. So he received the Aga Khan Award for architecture, Kazi Award, the cultural art complex with performance theaters and art galleries formed the heart of Lahore's cultural and artistic growth. So for this Alhamra Art Gallery in Lahore, Pakistan, he received the Aga Khan Award, which is, I talked the other day about Aga Khan. It's a very important architecture prize. And I wish, well, it's for the Muslim world, but yesterday I showed that an architect from Germany received this prize because she made a school in Bangladesh. Anyway, it's a good building by Dada. I personally like more the outside than the inside. The inside is predictably, but maybe, this is almost unavoidable because, you have to display artworks on white walls, invite Mr. Roberto Mata to bring in his canvases and, but there are still moments of, architectural, almost subtlety, like what we look at here. Is not very spectacular. Of course, after we receive the aesthetical shocks of, let's say, someone like Frank Gehry, he's not alarming. He's not an alarming architect. A residence with such a beautiful tree, it almost doesn't matter what you build. First of all, the tree almost covers the house, and second, I mean, the tree is impressive, and you can see insinuations, but it's more than insinuations of nature everywhere. It's an opulent house, of course. This is not for a proletarian, but what can you do? The kitchen is a true kitchen, a large kitchen. What distinguishes it from Western kitchen is the display of plates on the wall, ornamental plates, those you do not see in, Western kitchen, unless you talk about a collector of those plates. Well, someone is obviously living very well here, and probably without guilt for living so well, when so many in Pakistan, and not just in Pakistan, are not living, are living far from so well. But anyway, it seems we cannot change the world. It seems, there will be always, there will be rich people, and then a large number of people who die in, difficult circumstances, and house names, of course, we do not know. Anyway, the architect works mainly for those house names we do know. But anyway, an expo center, also in Lahore, Pakistan, a world-class convention and exhibition facility in Lahore. The project includes a hotel, business center, tower, large exhibit spaces, and a convention hall. There was missing a letter L, that last hall. Here it is. And I think it has enough dignity for a program not truly intrinsically being concerned with dignity. I mean, this building could have been anything, really. Let's read again the functions. A hotel, a business center or tower, a large exhibit spaces, and a convention hall. Well, if you look at the building like this, you don't really feel like talking about, being a business center or where is the hotel. But it's the volumes are articulated properly, and it's a convincing architecture for that place in Pakistan. And I think even if it's built there, it's more than local. I think it's a good architecture. Why so monumental for this kind of function? This might be indeed a little bit problematic, but on the other hand, he's telling the truth, the painful truth. business is the king, and being the king, the citadel belongs to the appropriate one. Brick again. And yes, brick is one of the magical materials, we have to confess. It was, it is, and probably it will be. The interior is rather predictable, but here there are some interesting things. I kind of regret what I see here. These things here, they seem to be rather strange, if I am to call them so, because they are decorative, but I understand he wanted to, to relate with a certain tradition, but the level of abstraction is not, in my opinion, sufficient. Anyway, a memorial in Pakistan. I like this work. It's you have the simplicity of a few walls, and then you have this artwork which evokes, I guess, some kind of flying by birds or the aspirations of men. It's good. The guest room block, Lahore, Pakistan. Housing. Here also, I think certain references to the convenience of a certain past is a little bit problematic. But again, the value of the brick, the fact that he works with the brick abundantly, the brick saves some, I would say, some stylistic mistakes. Like here again, we see this rather too literal and explicit and pedantic, because unnecessary things. This architectural inflowerings, if I am to call them so. You see them here too, mimicking wood or something. I don't think this would have been necessary. But, and here again, there is a little bit too much localism, I think. A little bit too much. Now, what is this? A 750-acre park is an entire sector of the capital city in Islamabad. Its environment relies not only on landscape, but elements that connect us to history, poetry, and the arts that have been central to our culture. Well, his culture. Beautiful, beautiful landscape. And I think he's very good when he works with, straightforward architecture, with an straightforward expression, architectural expression, like these walls. And you don't need much else. In fact, I don't even know if we need those walls if we have these beautiful flowers in the foreground. Again, there is risk, in my opinion, when you become too literal, as he does here. But maybe there were some requirements from the program. I don't know. Great art, like Brâncuși in Târgu Jiu, arrives at a high level of abstraction, and everything that is incidental or literal or anecdotic is banished. But yeah, there is modernity here, but there is also a complicity, if I am to call it so, with the literalness of what we might call the past of that culture. I mean, his culture. well, all of a sudden I can breathe better, because when I see these beautiful inventions of nature, if I am to call them so, I'm happy. It takes a lot to bring architecture to this level of accomplishment. I'm talking about the great virtues of the natural world. And I include here the mountain, the stones as well, the grass also. When I look at this picture, I ask myself, do we really need architecture? Now I know we cannot live in an Arcadia that is exclusively natural, but I think we need in our world today more of this, more gardens, more parks, more nature, and this seems to be the message of the present too. If I am to read what is published in on the internet and so on, yes, the more nature, the better. And yes, all of a sudden, the arched architecture of Mr. Dada, solid, rigid, and using stones, lots of stone. An interesting mound there. I mean, man-made, and that's it. Happy birthday to him.